Security Administration announced late last year to boost retirement benefits by 5.9%. Martha Thompson was excited.
Yes, because of what I was hearing, the increase.
After minimal increases, the cost of living adjustment, or COLA, will be more than Social Security had seen since the 80s. But when the money came in at the start of the year,
It wasn't what I thought it was.
according to AARP, which
New deposit dates are here. It is happening right now for many people. Several states will be sending out the final stimulus checks of 2022. So if you're struggling to pay your bills, don't worry because you may be able to receive a one-time direct deposit in the next coming days. As the holiday season gets into gear, Americans will be struggling financially more than ever because of high inflation. Increased prices continue to stretch many families' budgets, with a recent poll finding that a majority of Americans are concerned about how they'll afford their gifts this year. Californians authorized direct deposits of up to $1,000 just to help residents cope with inflation early this year, and now the state's franchise tax board said that more than $5 billion has already been distributed through the program known as the Middle Class Tax Refund. However, recipients won't see payments until December or January. Direct deposit payments for those who received the Golden State stimulus payments last year have already been issued to bank accounts, and the agency said Californians changed their banking information since filing will receive a debit card in the mail from December 14th and January 14th. Debit cards for those who received prior stimulus payments will be mailed by December 10th, and all other debit cards mailed by January 14th. State lawmakers in Colorado passed a law early this year to send direct payments to people in Colorado in the form of a tax refund. Now, those who received the Golden State stimulus payment last year have already been issued to bank accounts. Californians changed their banking information since filing a tax return will receive a debit card via mail and also paper check. So most residents will have already received the payments, but those who file for an extension and submit their state tax return by October can expect to see a stimulus check by next year, 2023. In September, the Idaho also signed a law. The governor signed a law of $500 million into tax rebates. Full-time Idaho residents who filed tax in 2020 and 2021 will receive the 10% of the tax amount on their 2020 income and get back $300, whichever is greater. The Idaho Tax Commission said it started processing the rebates in September and will continue to process them through 2022 and early 2023. That's because about 75,000 payments will go out weekly. That means you'll be getting your stimulus checks very soon. One-time payments of at least $500 started going out to eligible New Jersey residents this year. That's very good, folks, because this means you'll be getting stimulus checks very fast. There's also good news for Pennsylvania residents. The payments are being sent to people who filed for federal stimulus payments and filed state income tax returns using an ITIN. The program is giving $500 to every ITIN holder on the tax return, meaning a married couple filing jointly and claiming two dependents will receive $2,000. So the New Jersey Division of Taxation also said it began mailing payments this month, and the residents should continue to contact the agency if they haven't received anything by December. There's also good news for Pennsylvania residents. The state is sending out one-time eligible checks to people that are older. The maximum standard rebate is $650, but those who qualify for supplemental rebates can receive as much as $975. The income limit is $35,000 a year for homeowners and $15,000 annually for renters, with half of security income excluded. Now, meanwhile, Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf has called for state lawmakers to pass a bill that would send $2,000 checks directly to people. Also, South Carolina approved a bill of $1 billion tax rebate. The South Carolina Department of Revenue said it will begin issuing the rebates, which are capped at $800 a month, and payments are still being sent out to those who filed tax returns by the October deadline. However, those who file their returns between October this year and October of next year will receive payments by March of 2023. So folks, I believe that President Biden should do more for the American people and send out stimulus payments. Do you believe that he can get it done in time? Tell me what you think in the comments.
Is the NDA that has come out of the House will have language to do partially what we want to have happen. What we want to have happen is make sure that our military men and women will not continue to be discharged because for reasons, health reasons, they don't want to take the vaccine. And so that's an unbelievable win for our military men and women. But let's remember, the military is about military members. We need to have all the equipment, need to have all these, but without the men and women in the military, we can't get this done. One person I want to introduce, retired Rear Admiral Pete Brown. I want to thank you for being here. We had the opportunity to work together when I was governor of Florida, and also worked in the last administration. But he'll be available afterwards to talk about some of the stories he knows of Coast Guard members that have been discharged, that have their stories are horrible. So I just want to thank you for coming up here and being willing to tell the story.
This is huge news. There's actually new inflation relief that has been approved. Many people will be receiving a $300 stimulus payment this month, but some action is going to be needed to take. But some action has to be taken by Congress in order for you to receive the stimulus check. Now, rebates worth up to $300 will be going out to more than 600,000 Delaware taxpayers next month under an inflation relief plan declared the General Assembly. The rebate, which lawmakers approved after first weighing whether to institute a gas tax holiday, will be in the form of actual stimulus checks mailed to people who filed a tax return in 2021 for the previous year's earnings. The cost is around $186 million to the state, which currently has a surplus of about $1 billion for the fiscal year that ends June 30th. In addition to the rebate for taxpayers, the state will also send around $300 checks to some 168,000 adult residents who did not file a return last year. The state hopes to identify those recipients through public records like driver's license. Now, checks for those recipients will be going out after July 1st, once lawmakers appropriate the $50 million cost in the state budget, which usually approved at the end of June. The state has a detailed timeline of when checks will be mailed, and the governor signed a bill just minutes after the Senate passed it. Delaware Governor told reporters, "My hope is that these direct payments will provide some measure of relief for Delaware families who are dealing with higher costs at the grocery store and at the gas pump. These direct payments to Delaware families are part of a broader, responsible budget proposal." Now, CNN released a poll this week that shows the president repeated efforts to highlight undeniably strong aspects of the economy's post-crisis rebound and to offset blame for its bad spots are not working. The main culprit is inflation, a force the White House initially underestimated and has failed to tame. It has been decades since Americans experienced this cycle of spiraling costs for basic goods and services. That shock is twinned with rising gasoline prices that also hurt family budgets across the country. The result is a looming political disaster for Democrats, with voters in a disgruntled mood ahead of midterm elections that were already historically thought tough for a first-term president. Federal Chairman Jerome Powell said during a news conference, "I'd like to take this opportunity to speak directly to the American people. Inflation is much too high, and we understand the hardship it's causing. We're moving expeditiously to bring it down," he says. The Federal Reserve this week says that it's raising interest rates by half percentage point to get a handle on the worst inflation that Americans have seen in the past 40 years. It's the first time in 22 years that a central bank has hiked rates this much. The decision was unanimous, with all 12 members of the Policy Setting Federal Open Market Committee agreeing on it. In March, the Fed ramped up its benchmark borrowing rate for the first time since late 2018, increasing it by a quarter percentage point. The rate increase will make new home and car loans and payments on credit card balances more expensive, but in the process, it could cool the housing market and making it easier to buy a home